Hello, everyone. I am Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and you may have noticed by my name that it has now changed to Macuris. So we are officially slowly starting the transition into married life and switching over my name and all my branding. So stay tuned. It's coming, people. It is coming, but I want to ease into it more for me than for you guys. Anyway, I am back from the honeymoon. I am back from the wedding, all the fun things that go along with celebrating a new life change. And I am excited because today's guest, we've been talking for a while now, and he's an amazing soul. So you guys are going to love him. He and I have connected on different levels at different events, and he is an amazing personal trainer among many other things. And let's just bring him on and introduce him. Oliver Eehn, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here today.
Well, it is my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, as you know, we've become sort of friends as we get to know each other, but not everybody knows you. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and your wellness journey.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like a lot of fitness professionals, I started my journey as an athlete myself growing up, and football being my main sport. And so it's like along with all the rigors and injuries that come along with that, I just kind of became my own patient many a times over the years, kind of healing this, wrapping and taping that, and it's like okay, so now I know how that works. And just over the years, it's just I couldn't play football forever. Thankfully, it's just we know what happens to their brains after so many years of that, but. And then, of course, the weight training in the off season was a big part of that. And then, so that just kind of became a love of mine, the iron sport, as they say. And then, of course, watching good old Arnold and his pumping iron buddies, really help inspire that as well. So that always stuck with me. And then it just made sense that I would enter into this profession. And then, of course, you got to understand that this was before personal training was even a thing. Okay. I had the privilege of meeting like Jack LaLanne, and when he had his old health spas that later got bought out by Bally's. And then, so just throughout that now working with people that who had diseases of various types like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, stroke victims, and who their neurological systems as well as some of their psychiatric functions got affected. And so now learning how to work through all that. So, and that has become the thrust of like a lot of what my business has turned to today. So.
I love that. I love that you've taken a love of something and turned it into how you spend your days. I'm curious, you mentioned Parkinson's and you mentioned strokes and things like that. A lot of people assume that once they have conditions like that they don't need to work out, or it doesn't, all of a sudden that idea goes back to the back burner. What do you have to say about that?
Oh wow, a lot because I remember my first Parkinson's patients. That was like boy, it's like 24 years ago now. And he was a World War II veteran, a great athlete in his younger years. I mean, in multiple sports. And here he was now stricken with Parkinson's disease, and sadly, this was like years after the fact. And so we know now that if you catch these diseases early on, that you could certainly combat it and slow down his progress, as well as even reverse some of its effects that we found. And so that is wonderful. So I kind of wish now, looking back, that I started this quest like 24 years ago. But hey, you live and learn, and then you move along. And then get this. This as of this year, his grandson, who has the exact same name as he does, has now become a client of mine. And so it's kind of straight fun how that turns full circle. And so it's just now, as I continue to work with these type of patients, so I just tell folks, if you or some of your family members are suffering from this, then definitely jump on it early.
What about people who have the excuse of not enough time?
Well, first of all, if you have these diseases, I'm going to guess you're older and maybe retired by now, and then or forced into retirement because of now this ailment that's come upon you. It's just I would hope you have make the time to do this, because as one of the marquees on my facility says, like those who think they don't have time to exercise will eventually have to make time for illness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, by Edward Stanley. That was his quote, and so that he quoted a long time ago, and we know now how true that is. And so now we are seeing the prevalence that is become an epidemic now, to where it's just
Mhm.
so many folks are now, we're talking tens of millions who are stricken with these various diseases.
So, what kind of diseases do you think that people can get help with? Because I know that you mentioned Parkinson's and stroke, but I'm sure there's other ones that you work with that people just think, oh my gosh, I have this limitation now. And then that's what they think that it is.
Unfortunately, like with Mr. Penny, my first Parkinson's patients, his doctors essentially just send him home to die.
Hmm.
They just say, "Yes, sir. You gotten old. You beat up your body over the years. Through World War II and being an athlete. It's like, okay, now you got Parkinson's. There's nothing more we can do for you,
Hmm.
sadly." But we know now that it's just not as we through the process of like neuroplasticity, as you're starting to hear that term much more. And it's like, I mean, we know about it because we know that as our body adapts, and neuroplasticity, that's just a kind of fancy name of just kind of saying that how our brain, how our nervous system is able to now adapt to its environment. And so as we give it new stimuli, then now we could help reverse that condition. So we know it works.
I like that there is, some science behind it instead of a just I say so kind of a thing. But I just want to preface this for people who are watching. You are not a doctor, and so I'm
Correct.
asking this question as for what you visually see with your clients. What are some things that you've noticed that improve that you as the trainer can attribute to the exercises that they're doing?
Right. I mean, without getting too technical, we understand it's kind of how our nervous system connects, how the brain connects to our spinal cord and the central
Mhm.
nervous system, as well as some of the peripheral nervous systems, and how all that works. And then as we just kind of like any athletic activity, you run and you learn to run faster. You lift weights, you learn to then get stronger and lift more weights. And so
Mhm.
therefore, like through the process of neuroplasticity, now retraining though that function, that nervous system function, that we see how this works. Like with my first Parkinson's patient, for example, like Mr. Penny, just watching him, just kind of how he would like shuffle as he would step. His walking gait was obviously very much interrupted because of the process. But through strength training specifically, we know that it's like as the muscular process and how the brain-derived neurotropic factor is another big one that
Mhm.
you're hearing a lot more about. Again, just another fancy name for just a single molecule that just basically just now, it's we know now is that through strength training specifically, how as we build up muscle tissue, as we build up muscle strength, that then we can now help that process. And then now watching Mr. Penny, the Parkinson's patient, now being able to walk straight and being able to stand erect, stand straight up. And his family was amazed that
Mhm.
just the improvement that he was able to see through that.
I like that. So you would say his mobility improved.
Correct. Oh, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So something that I noticed, I've worked with stroke patients, clients, however you want to put it, myself, and there's really simple exercises that people can do to improve their balance and their eye-hand coordination and things like that. But what I've discovered, and I don't know if this has been true for you, is most of the men that I've worked with feel almost like it's beneath them to do these simple exercises and they're rather embarrassed. What would you say to somebody like that?
Easy, okay. I like that. If they really want a challenge, okay, I'll say, hey, show me what you can do. And then it's like, okay, they're a little clumsy. All right. And so, I mean, assuming it's not, too out in left field there, it's like this and safe to do, then it's like, okay, I'll just say, sir, let me show you just some simple steps on how we're going to progress into this. All right. Yes, I believe you'll be able to just run and even jump again, but it's a progression. And so therefore it's like showing them simple steps. Like we talk about the sit and stand test that you
Yep.
see widely done with senior citizens.
Hmm.
Okay, that the CDC has put out. And so yeah, I mean that is a good test that I would agree with, that I would use myself. And let's see how many of these you can do in 30 seconds. Okay. And then if they're only able to get like, 6 or 7, it's like, okay, sir, we need to improve this. All right. And then now you can essentially at that point pretty much convince them that they got some work to do.
I like that because then it's kind of let's see where you are and we'll go from there. It's not, yeah, because I notice too for me sometimes, even though I know where the client is, doesn't mean that they know yet.
Correct. Yes.
And why would they hire me anyway if they didn't want to use me? So, what about exercising at home? Is it dangerous for people with balance issues to try and do these things at home?
It can be, yes, because it's with various, particularly those with like these neurological diseases that we're talking about, especially like a stroke victim. Obviously, like if some of the more severe cases of strokes that I work with is like Uncle Jack, we called them. Like back when I used to own a health club out in Buena Vista here, we took on some of these patients as well. The number of them being stroke patients, and so
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Jack, he was about the worst case of stroke that you could see, and that the left side of his brain was affected, in this case, affecting and paralyzing the right side of his body,
Mm.
and as well as his speech and swallowing ability. And so, I mean, he did about as good as he could under those conditions, thankfully. But to get him to just like try to get him to walk straight, it's like you would have to have somebody like a trainer, myself, or some assistant stand next to him just to be sure that he doesn't falter and fall over. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to do exercising at home, definitely have somebody there with you to now help guide you through that.
I like that. So the next question I have is kind of a basic one, but I think that it's a really good distinction that needs to be brought up here is what's the difference between what you do versus oh my gosh, I'm all of a sudden having a brain toot, as they say,
Yeah.
PT, a physical therapist.
Okay, so now I got to be careful in the sense that, like, while I do give out always, we'll do free fitness assessments,
Mhm.
evaluations, and through that process, along with, injury assessments, it's like I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not a physical therapist. So therefore, I cannot cross over into that fine line
Mhm.
of, what we call between, fitness and medical. So being that I'm not a medical professional, it's that, yeah, I do have to just let it be known that it's like I cannot diagnose injuries, I cannot diagnose diseases. That is only for like you and your doctor to determine at that point. Of course, I've seen enough of this to be able to say it's like, sir, ma'am, I've seen the beginning stages of like some of this before, and it's like you could be suffering from what the onset of what could become fibromyalgia, or what could turn into a stroke if you're not careful about this. So at that point, I would then direct them to their medical professional.
Interesting. I didn't know that there were signs for stroke or like something that could turn into a stroke. I mean, I actually I actually saw somebody die at the gym, which was really interesting. He was
Mhm.
98 though, so it was okay. At least he wasn't home alone. But
Okay.
yeah, it was fascinating. But and then there was somebody else that basically he was on the treadmill and he was having issues and he's still alive, thank goodness. But the owner of our gym was like, I think you need to go to the ER. Something's not right
Okay.
here. Totally saved his life.
Right. I mean, if ever in question, it's just definitely just refer them. Like in that
Yeah,
case, ER. Okay, because
yeah.
you just always want to play it safe. Better safe than sorry. Yeah, because
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
because
But there is this thing too, at least in the United States, where a lot of people call themselves personal trainers and that, can or nutrition coaches or life coaches even. But that does not mean that everybody is as qualified as you, for example. So if somebody is looking for somebody in their area that it's not going to be you, but by the way, let's pop up your website again, just for those people that are in your area, which is Colorado, correct?
correct. Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Colorado Springs, Colorado. But if they're, say, in California, where I am, what would be some proper questions to ask the personal trainer to see if that would be a good fit and if they are knowledgeable in the things that the client would need.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's certainly a lot there because it's just like, okay, most of us fitness professionals, we gotta know how to work with, Susie who wants to lose that pesky 30 pounds. Okay, we gotta understand weight loss. That's always a big part of it, sure. And as many of my clients over the years have been, but it was just more, in my case, it was more by default that I kind of fell into the disease and injury category because having done so much of that on my own and on my own injuries, as well as just being introduced to like one person's who may have Parkinson's, then this person who had a stroke, and then now they're referring their friends now who are now dealing with those conditions. And so but and it's just like whatever your goals are in mind, I would just say it's like in the case of like athletic performance, obviously there are great strength and conditioning coaches that are specific to that type of training, and even more specific to even specific sports that you're training toward. Like in my case, I work with a number of like aside from athletes, I would also include like military, civil servants, like police, firefighters. Now these are the ones who need to get themselves in shape for the test coming up. And so yeah, they train essentially like athletes, and those are always fun, to be able to tell that athlete, all right, or would be firefighter, all right, drop down, give me another 20, and then those are always the most fun for me. But it was just more in this, it was more like I defaulted to now working with the older population with these diseases. And so, and if I'm talking to you out there, it's like, just understand that it's like we are thankfully bringing more attention and more awareness to what is going on with this, and as well as understanding that through exercise that we know that would help now these conditions and help people not just survive but thrive through disease.
I love that. On that note, it is time for us to go to a commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. And for those of you who are watching us live, thank you so much for being here. But it is time for us to go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Oliver about his mission and his goal in life to help people. So we'll be right back in just a minute.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest Oliver back to the show. Welcome back, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great.
So, we've been talking a little bit about your mission in life, and I'd like for you to expand upon why this is so important to you.
Well, given that our current healthcare system is like we're up to now almost $5 trillion in our healthcare cost, and just I mean we're talking just here in the U.S. And also remember that I'm old enough to remember when our GDP was only around $5 trillion. So it just and just to think that now our healthcare cost is approaching that, and to think that it just what are we doing about it? And we've kind of watched over, like, what has happened in our so-called healthcare industry, which I would call sick care. I consider
Mhm.
folks like Julianne and myself to be the healthcare professionals, frankly. But here we are in our current healthcare or sick care condition with all this is going on, and it's just we've kind of relegated ourselves to just taking a pill or just using this other new device modality for whatever condition that we may have. And it's just we've known for so many years now that the best remedy for a lot of this is simply to move, exercise. So how about we get back on that track?
Why do you think people resist it so much?
Yeah, I get that it's uncomfortable. Okay, so exercise is not going to be, especially if you were never really the athletic type. Like for me, being an athlete was always just something that movement was something that I just enjoyed. And
Mhm.
given that I was also ADHD, and of course you got to remember this was back in the days when that wasn't even a diagnosis, but I definitely had it. Yes, and I mean, thankfully they didn't diagnose it because I'm sure my parents would probably have drugged me up and done all kinds of other stuff. Had we known that back then. But it's just I just find that for folks like myself, it's like, hey, I enjoy movement. I enjoy the challenge of just grabbing a heavy weight and now seeing how many times I could lift it. But I get that not all of you are gonna just kind of be able to approach it the same way, and so exercise is just not something that you're gonna look forward to. Okay, so now what can we do to change that? So that's what we're looking to change here.
So I guess my next question would be something a little bit more of an opinion. I'm curious what your opinion is of this. So, there's this whole idea of, I don't like the gym and I don't want to go to the gym. But what about movement in general? How important is, let's say we get over our thing, we go to the gym and we work out, we lift weights, and there's so much science behind why that's good for us. But my thing has always been, that's great. Please do that. But that doesn't mean you sit on your butt the rest of the time. Because let's say that's 3 hours a week total, then you don't sit and watch Netflix 99% of the rest of your time. What are your thoughts about additional movement?
Oh wow. Okay. So that I always have fun with this one because it's like, okay, so for the clients who train with me, and yes, I still do a lot of in-person training with clients that come see me face to face, as well as like some of my business, moving online as well, especially during the pandemic. And so as we now try to educate folks on just movement exercises, I try to really keep it simple. Look, just how about going out for just a 15-minute walk, like
Mhm.
after a meal, just something as simple as that. And it doesn't have to be that this pumping the weights like you see on the advertisements of the scantily clad supermodel, just doing their exercise. It's like that's
Mhm.
if that's the concept that you may have of exercise, then it's like, okay, we need to get rid of that. Exercise is simply just bodily physical movement. And if you watch a lot of TV, okay, during every commercial break, assuming you watch TVs that still do commercials, just jump up and just move, just do some stretches and just do some simple exercises just during the commercial break. And I try to encourage people, just don't sit there, get up and move.
Yes, exactly. Move, people, move. I have a past client of mine who used to do all her stretching and simple things like, I don't know, planks that while she was watching TV, so that she was having some exercise while she was spending time with her boyfriend. So I thought that was a good way to, complement things. Or what about habit stacking? Is that something that you, or not necessarily habit stacking, but kind of like this idea of, for me, I like to watch TV or maybe YouTube or something like that. So the only time I would allow myself to do that would be if I was on the treadmill.
There you go. Well, well, for example, it's like my business is home based, and so all the lower level of my home is now dedicated to my business. So
Nice.
the TV is the viewing room is where the
Hmm.
cardio equipment is, where we set up the that's the place where the clients would then like warm up or warm up as well as cool down. And so the TV is on the whatever they want to watch, outdoor TV and news, and so we just turn
Hmm.
that on for them. And it's like, okay, so if you're going to be watching TV in this room, you're going to be on a piece of equipment. So yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying that you need to just to outfit your living room or wherever your TV is, with some exercise apparatus. But the point being is, again, don't just sit there. And
Yeah.
because it's just, we know now that TV viewing has become just kind of a epidemic, if you want to call that. We just do too much of it. So I would say just, definitely get up, move around, like during commercials, or just watch, like when you watch sports, imagine yourself just getting up, imagine yourself dribbling the basketball and shooting and trying to block that shot that the athletes are doing there, so just get up and just keep yourself active.
I like that. One of the things that I used to do is pull out my rebounder and bounce while I watch TV.
There you go.
It's good for your lymphatic system too. But you mentioned that you do in person as well as online training. What does it look like to work with you?
Okay, so in person, that's pretty typical for those of you who've done that with trainers before. We get together, we go through your workout routine, and I just help coach you through that process. Online training, works very much the same, and I've done both. Where you just simply just like write out the workouts for folks who have a general understanding of exercise and nutrition as well. I get into the nutrition aspect of it as well, and then just outline that for them. Just email that to them, and they just would do that on their own, as well as now doing it virtually, just kind of how like you and I are now able to see each other here. We would set up that arena to where now I'm watching them do the exercises and helping them correct their form as they do it. And so it's just I would say online training is that virtual training is the next best thing to in-person training, especially if you live out somewhere else outside of Colorado Springs.
I like that. Do you do group training also or tandem?
I have, yes. Like I still offer like, and there's plenty of space here to where like I would offer like what we call team training, and that team could involve like a couple. It could involve like two friends who just want to like get themselves in shape together. So I've done that as well. So that's a team training. Small group training, there's some limitations as to my space here. So 3, maybe 4. I would still be able to do that. And then a number of years ago, I did the outdoor boot camps. Remember back when boot camps were popular back in the days. So I had a little boot camp with that as well. So yeah, so those are always fun. But
I
not
love
as yeah, but I really don't get as much into the group as much anymore. So I'd like to more focus on the individuals now. So
Well, I would think too, especially if most people that you're working with have special requirements, then you really do need to pay attention to each individual person. And I think that becomes more important too when, somebody has the possibility of falling, or we really need to pay more attention. If you're just trying to lose weight, it's not as big of a deal, but some people do require more attention. So,
oh, definitely.
you mentioned too that you talk about nutrition a bit. So, how important is that aspect in conjunction with working out?
It's of course, if you're a competitive bodybuilder or a bigger competitor, then obviously that's going to play more of a role than the exercise itself. And anybody who's competed in that will tell you that to get your body fat down to these levels that I'd never gotten down to, and so then to be able to show off those the muscular definition, those 6-pack abs, and so
Mhm.
nutrition becomes more of a critical role in that. But I'll go so far as to say that like even when we talk about like particularly our psychiatric diseases, the Alzheimer's, the dementia patients, now we're dealing with now the psychiatric, and for those folks, I would even put nutrition ahead of exercise. I mean,
Mhm.
exercise is still important, obviously, but the nutrition itself to be able to get those antioxidants, those essential minerals, to now help the healing
Mhm.
process there. So I would say nutrition would play a more critical role in some of those aspects.
I always think of it as like a car. If my body was a car, if I don't put the right gasoline in it, it's just not going to run as well. It doesn't matter what I
Yeah.
do, it's just not going to run as well. So,
No, not at all. Because it's like, yeah, I always, that's another analogy that I like to use. It's like, you got this stock car, this race car, and then it's like you could give it the finest, oil treatments, gas treatments, but if you put terrible fuel in there, it's just not going to race very well.
yeah,
Simple as that.
exactly. It does make a difference. And, something I always like to talk about too is about how all calories are not created equal. I mean, it does matter what you're eating. You might be eating 1,200 calories, but if it's all McDonald's food, which by the way would be like half a hamburger,
Right.
then you're not going to be nearly as healthy as if that was all vegetables and lean protein and things like that. So,
Correct. Yeah. In fact, I did write an article on that. This was some years ago, and that got published in a newspaper that talked about just what are your calories, what makes up your calories, because it's like you can
mhm,
consume 1,200, 2,000 calories of good, essential, healthy, real food, as opposed to
mhm,
just empty carbs, candies, sodas, and everything. It's
mhm.
like it doesn't take a nutritionist or dietitian to tell you that there's going to be a big difference in how your body processes that.
It is, and it's kind of fascinating too how me personally as a woman, there's this thing where women are, it's normal to experience cramps, it's normal to experience premenstrual, all sorts of things, but that doesn't I should say it's common. It's not normal, it's common. And I did an all juice cleanse for 4 weeks, and I'm not recommending this to the people that are watching. I'm just saying that I did it, and during that time I had zero issues, and all these other things that were issues for me, allergies, things like that, they all decreased exponentially because I was not eating processed food during that time. So
You'd be amazed what you could do, or what your body can do, when you feed it the right foods.
exactly, it's pretty impressive. So I know that you're writing a book. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Oh yes, well it's this book, particularly the one I'm working on right now, is specifically toward other fitness professionals that
Oh,
are now
nice.
because so much of, as we talked about, like what the awareness of disease that's coming to the forefront now, and I'm every time like I thankfully like I'm involved with these various like forums, like online groups of these
Hmm.
fellow fitness professionals. I'm really bringing it to awareness, to their attention. And for some it's very new to them. For others, yeah, okay, they thankfully there are others out there who have been doing it a while, dedicating like a lot of their business toward that now, as I have. And so
Hmm.
now I would just want to now write a book as an educational resource to be able to like teach other fitness professionals now how you can now work with the disease population,
Hmm.
and as well as outlining just in brief some of the diseases that we talked about, whether it's neurological or psychiatric. So yes, that's coming
I like
together
that.
nicely here.
I love that. That's actually fascinating. There's not a lot out there for the fitness professional. So I am
We
assuming
can
you
change
saw
that.
a need.
Definitely, yes.
I like that. I like that. So, you know, speaking of needs and things like that, what are some of the things that you've noticed that people with these issues, these either Alzheimer's, the stroke, all of these things, these sometimes age, they're considered age related issues. What are
Okay,
some of
right.
the needs that maybe other people should be aware of? Because it's a lot easier for us to have understanding when we have the facts, and sometimes we can get frustrated because we think people are just being difficult when really they can't help it.
Ooh, okay. So it's just So many individuals, like, whether they're diseased or not, it's, we deal so much with what is in our environment, what is around
Mhm.
us. Are we continue to get just the positive affirmation, the motivation, from others, our family, our friends, to now just to spur us on toward becoming greater? Or just are we constantly around those who just constantly drag us down and just put us down and just constantly criticizing us? And so a lot of
Mhm.
times the environment will dictate to like who we are, who we become, sadly. And so it's like I would just tell anybody, just, wherever you are in life, it's just don't give up. Just keep
Mm.
pressing on. Okay, you got this. I always say, so you've been given this one life. Make it count. Make it count.
I like that. Yeah, but there's only one time in this meat suit.
There
We
you
don't
go.
get to do it again. All right. On that note, it is time for us to go to one more commercial break. We're going to be back in just a minute. And for those of you, I said hello to everybody who's watching us live. Now I want to say hi ho to all of you who are watching us on demand. When we come back, we're going to talk to Oliver a little bit about some of his wellness tips and ways that we can create our day better, since we were talking about our environment. We'll be back in just a minute.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest Oliver back to the show. Welcome back. So before the commercial break, I was talking, we were talking about our environment and, how important that is and how that can shape a person. So, I don't always ask this question, but I am curious, since you are a wellness professional, are there things that you do every day or in general every day that are kind of non-negotiables? And what I'm referring to, it might obviously working out would be a part of that, not necessarily every day, but working out would be a part of that. But what about things like reading or, a gratitude journal, things like that.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Of course, I always start my morning by drinking at least 2 cups of water. Just stay hydrated. And so along with whatever supplements for that day that I'm taking. And then I always, every day for I don't know how many years now, I would start my day with just a devotional with my scripture reading and just praying, because it's like that is just my foundation for just beginning the day, which every day of mine is just very, very busy. And so
Mhm.
as I move forward through that day, it's just kind of looking, always looking for new opportunities as to what is ahead, as well as just kind of staying to onto my agenda of whatever many tasks that I have for that day. And so through that is just kind of like, imagine like when you were in school. Okay, so I would dedicate like this period to like this subject, the
Mhm.
next period to that subject. So I'm getting better about my time management, and so just understanding that, and of course, just along with just now working with individual clients and patients that I work with on a day-to-day basis. So it's just develop habits, and if they're assuming they're good habits, stick to them.
There's this phenomenal book for people out there that struggle with time management. It's called Time Warrior, and it's written by Steve Chandler. And it is an amazing book. I highly recommend it. It just kind of puts everything in perspective. And all of a sudden, you find so much more time and less busy and more productive. So, for those of you out there that are struggling, take a look at that book. It's good. And it's funny.
Yeah.
He's a funny author. But you mentioned time, like your periods, like in school, and I love that because that means that you schedule things out. But are you religious about it, or are you kind of like me, where I have my periods and I'm kind of flexible with my time so I can fit in things that come in last minute?
Oh, definitely. And it's just like, and we understand that life is always going to be full of interruptions. We get it. And
Mhm.
some things that are just out of your control. And Julianne could certainly tell you that with how her last couple months have been. And so, yeah. And we just understand that sometimes those things happen, and you've got to always be able to negotiate for that, of course, especially if it involves a family member or illness or something of that nature. So it's just like, yeah, we can be religious about it, but to the point of being legalistic, no, I would say not. Like yesterday was a good example of that. It's just kind of in my workout, and you got to understand, like when it comes to, yeah, now being fanatical, it's like, don't interrupt my workout, okay, please. Yeah, but then my attorney, with an important subject matter, just called me, and then it what I thought would be, just like a 10-minute conversation turned into 30 minutes. Okay. And there went half my workout. It's like, okay, yeah. But, we got through the subject, and when I say legal matter, nothing too drastic here, but just some matters that I needed to get in order. And so, but I needed to do that. So obviously I made room for that. And so, but I will finish the other half of my workout today.
I like that. Showing yourself grace and rolling with the punches of life. I mean, that's part of what it is, but it doesn't mean that it's an excuse not to get things done. So I
There
like
you
that.
go. Yeah, I mean, there's people who just always fly off the seat of their pants just every day, all the time, and live like that. It's just, it's I I've had some clients like that, and yes, they did not stay my clients very long. Okay, so put it that way.
Well,
Because
I've done
yes,
it too. And it's funny how all of a sudden my life is totally like that in every aspect. It's not financially, the relationships. I mean, so, and I've discovered too that when I start scheduling things out a lot more, meanwhile having grace for, I'll have intended times, but if it doesn't exactly fit into that, then that's okay too. But to I have so much more free time because I'm not mentally thinking about what I still need to get done.
right.
Yeah, definitely. There's this thing that I learned I can't remember who it is now, so I forget. Whoever knows who this is, please message me and remind me. I think the guy that started Power Crunch. I think that's who it is. But anyway, he doesn't. I think he meditates too, but he does this time period every day he calls it Thinkitate, and he Thinkitates for I don't even know how long. But I thought that was fascinating because that's how he grows his business and his life and comes up, with his ingenious times, or ingenious ideas is during his Thinkitate process. So I always love to share ideas and things with people on this show so that, if something doesn't necessarily resonate with whoever's watching, then they can try something else instead of just stopping. So what are some of the habits and things that you've tried to implement that just didn't work for you?
That did not work?
Yeah, not negative, but positive things. Like for me, unless I keep my meditation at a low number, then because I tried doing it 20 minutes twice a day, and that just didn't work for me. So
my personality type is maybe a little unusual in the sense that it's like, once I just kind of set my mind to do it and then set the schedule to then perform that particular task or new habit, then it's like, thankfully, I've usually been pretty good about that.
I like that.
Yeah, that I know that is unusual, but I mean, if you get to know me, you would just probably think that I'm a little unusual and strange, and I get that. That's okay. I don't mind.
It's fascinating because it's unusual in a positive way. And I'm not quite like that, but I can relate to that. There's certain things in my life where once I've decided to make a change, that's just it. And I've never gone back, and it was never a struggle. It was just, this is who I'm going to be, and this is how I'm going to show up for myself in my life moving forward. So I totally appreciate that. Yeah. We talked a little bit about this in the beginning, because I want to get back to this whole idea of people in the disease model. Starting small and working their way up to maybe where they think they ought to be. Because, there's it comes back to showing ourselves grace. I know so many people, my dad has, for example, essential tremors, which is, it looks like Parkinson's, but it's not Parkinson's. It's essential tremors. That's what it is. And so, when he first started, his idea of what he can and can't do anymore it breaks his heart. It breaks mine too to see it. But, to show himself some grace and like adjusting certain things and continuing with his exercises, he does all of that, but he had to show himself some grace. And I'm curious, what are some things that you would recommend maybe on the mental side for these people that are trying to show themselves some grace as they start to improve their quality of life?
Yeah, of course. Well, I find that with most clients, whether they're diseased or just apparently healthy, it's like most of the work happens above the neck. Okay. Because, like a lot of, like the apparently healthy folks, it's like, they got what they need here to do what they need to do. It's now getting the mental attitude to now come in line with that. Mm-hmm. So, but specifically when it comes to disease, working with some of these folks, and now I get that it's a fact that as I'm getting old myself and just realizing that, okay, some of that testosterone levels, may not be quite like, like when I played football, but okay, but it's just like, but I can still lift heavy weights. I can still, feel strong. And so as you continue that, it kind of gives you that confidence. And so therefore it's like, for those who maybe need to work up to that, especially if you're diseased, and to understand that it's like, again, don't give up. Just keep pressing ahead. I mean, don't feel like this is the end. Oh, like I'm done here. This is just there's just no more to me, and so I'm just going to waste away and die. Yes, I know we're just jars of clay destined to perish, but it's just we know that we've seen many others, Jack LaLanne, and many others who just continue to just thrive and live productively and healthy, into old age. And so we know it can be done. So again, just don't give up.
I like that. Start where you are. Don't give up. I like that. And if you catch it early, or if you have that lifestyle already, then makes life a lot easier to adjust to maybe for me, for example, I have some issues with it's not really my rotator cuff, but it is affecting my shoulder. And so adjusting my workouts to still work that on those issues, but not injure myself, it's kind of fascinating. That's just how it is. You can't just stop because things aren't the way they used to be.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've always put together like just educational as well as motivational videos just myself. And just so you know, like 2 years ago, and beginning of 2021, I had rotator cuff surgery, and so. But understanding like how that process works, it's like I know I was going to bounce back right away. And then 1 year later, you see me in the video now, pressing, 100-pound dumbbells and, doing pull-ups and, just deadlifting heavy weights, because it's like I know how the process works and the healing process that is, and how you could now be able to restore movement, restore muscular function. So yes, you can do it.
I love that. Well, we are almost out of time. So I'm curious if you have any final thoughts that you'd love to share with the audience, or maybe if you want to reiterate something that you've already mentioned.
Oh, certainly. There's so much here. I know it's just just not enough time to really, get into it all. And so it's just that, as we live life, as we talked about, you only have one. Okay. So just do the best you can with it. And I believe that being that we are created in the image of God, that we are created and able to accomplish great feats. I understand, like, not all of you are going to be able to climb Mount Everest or become professional athletes or accomplish anything great in that nature, but you can be great in your own right. Just knowing that you could just press forward, just be your best today, every day. You get ill sometimes, it happens, but get up the next day and just press forward.
I like that. I love the idea too of your goals are worthy if they're your goals. Like I had a client who her goal was to be able to get up off the floor after playing with her grandchildren without needing lots of help. And she made it. And that's a worthy goal, in my opinion. I just want to pop up your QR code one more time for everybody that's watching. This is one of the best ways to reach out to Oliver and find out all of his offerings and find out when his book is coming out, which it will be soon, everyone. So keep your eyes peeled. And Oliver, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are an amazing, amazing soul. And real quick, one last time, when do you think that your book is going to come out roughly?
We're talking about summer now, so like in the fall. That'll be
perfect.
That's my goal to fall.
Perfect. Yes. Well, you know what? Then that's what we're aiming for. And everyone, this is his website as well. If you don't do the QR codes, totally understand and appreciate that. But that is all the time that we have for today, everyone. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again very soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.